Right, guys, welcome back. This is the Above Average FPL podcast. My name is Adam, and as always, joined by Baker. How you doing this evening, mate?
I'm good, mate. You?
No, absolute disaster class. This has been an absolute nightmare. So, for anybody that was tuned into YouTube for the stream, yeah, sorry about that. I'm on holiday, so I'm on a laptop rather than my desktop at home, and so we've had a few technical issues, I would say. Thankfully, our guest this evening has stepped in to save the day, and we're recording on another platform, so you'll get an audio version of the podcast this week. No video, most likely, this week. So, yeah, after that, I'm fine. I've got a beer. We're okay.
You got a beer, mate, and I guess knows what he's doing. In that he's got his own podcast that comes out. When does it come out, Simon?
Sometimes. I think it's about all I could give you, really. I think we make a pod when we have something interesting to say, which doesn't happen that often.
It's a fascinating pod for those that have not listened to it. So the community does wait for the pods to come out. So tell us a bit more about it, Simon.
It's called the Corridor of Uncertainty. I do it with Jamie or at WeRogue on Twitter, and we tend to end up making like pretty timeless content. So we tend to go like pretty zoomed out. We don't really talk about like game weeks and stuff normally. A lot of strategy, a lot of analytics, and just kind of digging into how people play the game. It's pretty fun, but yeah, we don't do it that often, just because it would be pretty boring if we did.
It's worth subscribing to, and then when it drops in, it's a present. That's what I would say with it. So can't recommend it hard enough, mate.
Like Christmas 3 times a year.
Hence, yeah, if we're lucky, 3 times a year. But when it comes, it's good, mate. It's good. So we've got a game, boys.
We have. I'm going to just plug the pod first, as always. I need to do that. I know we're in unfamiliar territory, but I'll do it anyway. So, follow us all on Twitter. The podcast is at Above Average FPL. Baker is at Baker FPL 343. Simon is at Analytic_FPL. Podcasts are on Google, Spotify, wherever you get Apple, wherever you get your podcasts from. YouTube as well. YouTube.com/Above Average FPL. The podcast is supported by our good friend Dan. He is at CryptoBlockDan on Twitter. He is a games analyst in the play to earn crypto space. Go give him a follow, find out what's going on, what he gets up to. It's a really interesting concept. So go check him out. And also we'll put in the show notes a link to FPLtips.com. FPL Tips is a weekly newsletter that comes out highlighting some key stats for you to make some informed decisions for the upcoming game week. It's a 5-minute newsletter that comes into your email inbox, really quick and easy to read. Complements the pod quite well because we go normally quite early, and then you get that at the end of the week as well, just to solidify what we've already said. So if you want to get involved with that newsletter, click on the link in the show notes and get yourself subscribed. And I think that's it. We have a game.
So, Adam,
Does
I
anyone
shall ask you
care?
the question. We do care. Of course we care.
There's the tone. There's the tone set.
Adam, what's your thoughts on the launch?
I find it hilarious that content creators are scrambling to change their color scheme. I find that quite funny. Need to change it. So that's quite funny. Ours is not changing. No chance. I think quite a lot of the players have been, we know that a lot of the players have been, I won't say fairly priced, but probably underpriced in quite a few areas to try and make it easier. It feels, and I mean, it has. For me, it means there's a few more options you can go for. It does mean that, but yeah, I mean, it is what it is at the moment, and until we get some sort of detail from pre-season as to how teams are lining up, how players are starting the season, what their fitness is like, then I'm pretty happy with just chucking a draft in and then just taking some notes for the next few weeks and seeing where we land.
Here we go.
No, go first, Baker, because
mate, I love the chaos, so I'm all for it. and I guess that's so. When I saw lots of players, I was thinking, oh, they're a good price. They're a good price. They're a good price. Actually, I thought that was fun because I thought, oh, there could be loads of variety. We'll see all these things, and maybe that does play out at some point. But then last night I saw the ownerships and I thought, oh no, these aren't the ownerships. This is just the auto completes. This is where people have put people, they haven't worked it out yet, and then a day later you look at it, you're like, oh, it's not the auto completes. Like, because people that are just auto completing aren't they're not setting a team up in the first hour. They're not racing for the race for the FPL.id. Madness.
Yeah, we missed it by 11 minutes, and I think we were 20k or something. Yeah.
Right, Simon, what'd you get? What'd you get on the ID?
It's about 10k. I mean, the reason I knew the game had launched, it tells you how quick some of these are. I got a notification from YouTube from Andy, Let's Talk FPL, saying the game had launched, and that's how I knew it had launched. He got a video out within like 5 minutes or something. I was like, what on earth? So I was like, oh yeah, I'll stick it in, I guess.
Stick it in. And then you have that moment, don't you? When you do it, you're like, what do I do here? And then, oh my God, I've got to put a team name in. And I started writing it. Just spam the keyboard. I've got to press it. These numbers are flying up. It's so stupid.
I didn't even bother doing like you had to set up like the new password and stuff. I couldn't be fucked with that. So I was doing that all at the same time. And I was like waiting for a verification email and all that. I still managed to get 10k and it was all right. So that just shows you how fucking quick Andy was.
I'm not going to lie, guys. I contemplated not supporting Tottenham because you've got to choose your favourite team. And I'm like, we're all the way down there. It's like, just press one. Obviously not Arsenal, but Villa were almost my team for the season. I was like, I might just have to get it in. Just press save. So stupid. But that's the first thing, in it. And then I've had a little look today, and actually I started thinking, I'm not sure how fun it ends up. And so we move on to Simon. Simon, how did you find the game and the pricing and what we've seen so far?
How do I put this politely? They fucked it, didn't they?
There's no need to be polite. Just say what you think, mate.
Explain for those that might not have taken that view earlier. Why have they fucked it?
Because they've priced it so that basically 10 teams are just absolute no-goes. So I can understand if you want to make the game so that people can get like a few more of the assets and you don't have to make all these decisions. That's absolutely fine. I can get that. But you either have to, if you're going to do that, reduce your floor of your pricing. So you've got like 3.5 million defenders at Fulham and Nottingham Forest and stuff like that. Or you have to just increase the budget and push the prices up to where they should be. So you have a 9 million Trent, a 14 million Salah and 125 million budget. And the way they've done it is they've just meant that it's fantasy top six, basically. There's no real reason not to have at least like 9-10 players from those teams, because A, you can, and B, there's no reason to pick the cheaper ones. So it just means that everyone's going to have the same team, which I think is not good for the game.
So we all would have made a first draft. We've made a first draft, yeah.
Yeah.
We've had a little fumble.
Yeah, I did one half asleep because
but just in the first,
my neighbour was banging around this morning, so I was like, yeah, might as well.
In the first fumble, from just the top six, how many players in the top six have you got?
Oh, who have I got in it?
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 10 of my 11 from the top. Well, from the top 5, in fact.
Yeah, I got 11.
Yeah, you are right. You are right, and it doesn't count if you've got, like I put the Southampton reserve keeper list on the bench just because I liked his goalie top. He was straight in, and Cafu just because he was a 4.5 midfielder. He's called Cafu, but they don't count, do they? When you look at your actual team, it's now very, very easy to triple up on City, triple up on Liverpool, and then
Chelsea, Tottenham. It's easy. Just build it from the back, don't you? Really, and that's where all the value is because they're still so cheap.
Yeah, so everyone's got
Yeah,
Trent,
he's
Robbo, Salah, Haaland, Cancelo, probably a Chelsea defender, and then maybe go Perisic or a second Chelsea. And then you probably chuck in Al-Niri because he's best value striker in the game by a mile. And then you just filling in a few blanks. What's the point?
I mean,
Honestly, like, I hate myself that I actually just made a fucking team just to get a low ID. So I'm like, what am I doing with my life? I just can't help myself. I'm like an actual addict where you're like, you just do it and you're like, why did I do that? It's not good for me.
we're all in the game, mate. But you know, you got to think as a Leeds fan, mate. Sam Greenwood at 26%, is in the teams, sort of.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Clearly,
I say he's in mine.
everyone knows that Marsh loves him.
He does. Everyone was counting the minutes. I count the minutes, but I mean, look, early days we've got Haaland 65%, Salah 60%, Trent 56, Perisic 47, Cancelo 45, Jesus 44. I learned the other day it's actually Jesus, isn't it? It is actually straight Jesus. You don't do the H for the Brazil. But I
Is
did
it?
also learn. Yeah, I did also learn it's Rafinha, isn't it? And Hisharlison technically is.
Where did we get that from? Extra inch.
Tim Vickery, mate. I heard Tim
I've
Vickery
got
talking
the
about.
got the Hitcharlison from Extra Inch. I think. Yeah.
Oh, mate, I heard it and I was like, nobody was calling him Rafinha.
That's almost as bad as Fernange.
yeah. Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah. So yeah, Jesus. It was not James this season, mate. James is 42%. I mean, just the big guns. Son at 25% was interesting. I thought was. I wonder. I wonder how that will stay come start game week
It's
one.
fine. Everyone hates Tottenham, so it's fine.
You're convinced everyone hates Tottenham,
I'm
aren't you?
convinced. Yeah, absolutely.
It's just because we went last on the last day. So if we'd have come out first day, everyone would have had more players in it. But now it's like they released those late, and I'd already made my mind up, so I've got to force my way into it. But we've got weeks, mate. It will work its way out. Simon, let me ask you a question. What you just said there was the best value forward in the game.
Yeah.
What's his name again?
Awaniyi. He's at Forest, right? So I think he's their record signing. Nice numbers in the Bundesliga. At Union Berlin for a few years, 6 mil. It'd be nailed as hell. Yeah, happy days.
So he's the main forward, do you think, and Brennan's the off him, by the looks of things.
Yeah, well, I'll put it this way: if Nottingham Forest play £17 million for a player and don't play him,
yeah,
then they're absolute mugs.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Yep.
It's true. It's true. It's true. The fixtures aren't bad. 6.0.
I have no idea. When did he sign?
A couple weeks ago, I think.
A couple weeks ago.
Yeah, he used to be at Liverpool before that. He's in the youth team.
Bundesliga.
They must. I think they signed him from someone as well. I'm not sure who.
Yeah. Big guy. Powerhouse. It's one of those that definitely call him Powerhouse quite a bit. So.
Yeah. He's 24 now, so he's just coming into his peak.
So that's the launch of the game. We'll get into it, mate. Look, we got pre-season. I think it's going to be. Thing is, you always say it's important, but these tours, mate, like then they line up and a load of youth team players come out, and you're like, yeah, I'm not so sure. I'm not sure. The one thing that is massive, isn't it, is that Community Shield. I don't think I've ever not called it Charity Shield before, but Community Shield, that is what it's called now, isn't it?
Yeah.
But the fact that it is City Liverpool, that's gonna, and the fact that we can afford those players, that's just gonna dominate how those game week one teams look like.
I think the people make a mistake when they're looking at pre-season performances, whereas all you really want to do is you want to look at the last round of pre-season fixtures to get an idea of lineups.
Yeah, that's the only
performances. I mean, absolutely shit all, do they? Because most of the games are just for fitness, and so you kind of know where all the players' performances are roughly going to be at if they're on the pitch. So you're just trying to work out who's on the pitch. It's most of the game is trying to work out who's going to play, really.
Do you think a lot of people picked Antonio and Benrahma based on just positional stuff last season then? Because I mean, not to say that I'm putting all my weighting on how pre-season starts, but they definitely had a good pre-season for them last season, and they started like a fucking house on fire, and they were in everyone's teams.
Yeah, I mean, I'll pick both. I mean, Antonio was pretty much locked in anyway because his numbers were
They were good.
superb for about a couple of years, and then they dropped off massively last year, especially on the XG after the first 10 games. I mean, you expect it. He's 32. But then Ben Rama, I mean, he had good fixtures. There was a lot of players who weren't really options because of the Euros when they were coming back late, and his numbers were fine last year. But the doubt was always the minutes because he got rotated a lot the year before the one just gone. So that was really the thing I was looking out for with him. That's why he ended up in my team. Obviously, they started off stupidly, which was just getting some nice bit of luck. But happy days.
The bit that I just immediately, as the price of Eels came about, and then I finally saw it once the actual game came about, I was like, oh, if you're good, you come in at 8 million. That's just it for midfielders. For midfielders, if you're good, you're 8 million. That's it. Straight up, Saka, Maddison, Kulusevski, Foden, Maris, just 8 million. That's your price. And then you looked under it and you were like, oh, well, Neto at 5.5 is what everyone wants as a player that performs in a team that don't score goals. But Palace have got Zaha and their fixtures are terrible, but he's 7.0. But it just feels like just nothing under 8 million in the midfield world where you're like, Martinelli, we were hopeful that, well, as hopeful as I always am when an Arsenal player, but that could be really good value at 6. I don't know.
Rashford 6.5 if he's nailed could be absolutely stupid.
But stupid, so stupid that it doesn't matter because if he is in, well, that's just a position gone. So it's just going to be 100% owned.
Yeah, I agree with you on Martinelli. But even like Sancho 7.5. He didn't have a great season last season. Coutinho 7, that's fine. Grealish 7, that's fine. It's not. I don't think it's as bad as people are saying. Under 8 mil. I think there's enough there.
I think they'll emerge. There's always team players that emerge, isn't there? And or take it up. So if Grealish somehow then starts, those numbers that he turned in last season with a striker like Haaland, we should work on the pronunciation. So Haaland is where we're going, isn't it? If Grealish gets it, but you just difficult with Foden and him unless move one of those to the right. But
one that will be absolute game breaker is Christian Pulisic at 6 if he gets some minutes.
But do you think like now the Sterling thing looks like it's almost done? Do you think that's even possible?
Maybe. I mean, just park it and see, don't you?
Yeah. It still should be left side, shouldn't it? Pulisic and Werner for one place.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, Werner gets an injury, game's broken, isn't it? Like everyone just jump on Pulisic, 6 mil.
Yeah.
The thing that's actually the thing that really is like got me about the pricing is that for the game, like, having a player who's way underpriced is way worse than having a player who's way overpriced.
Yeah.
Because you lose 1 out of your 15 spots, or you lose like 1 out of like 300. And it's just completely not equal. And so you just you get Pulisic at 6 if Werner gets injured and he's nailed for like 8 weeks or whatever. Everyone's gonna have him.
And then everyone can afford the extra. So
exactly.
It takes 2 decisions off the table, doesn't it? Because it's like, oh, actually, that freemium, as we like to call it now, with Son, it's like, oh, well, that's now comfortable because I've got.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If Rashford gets in, if Pulisic plays in, and you end up with these type of players that are in there, then it's bargains. So yeah, so they fucked it. We're fucked it. So
stop ranting about it now.
Now we're going to why we should play the game for the next year.
I guess so, yeah.
So we wanted to get you in. Me and you met at Fest. It's not before, but met at Fest, and I thought it was just very fascinating conversation. Can't even speak it, but conversation that we had. Just in general, I mean, we had some beers, but
One or two.
one or two. But just the takes on the games, and it's there's a lot of talk about analytics in there in FPL over the last year.
Yeah. We're taking over.
Taking over. We'll go that far, are we?
Taking over, let's say.
Taking over. And then just what does analytics mean to you, I suppose? Because I think there's probably a piece out there where there would be a lot of people, if they said the analytics crowd, they just think FPL review, and people that that's what it is. But what is it when you say analytics? And I suppose, where did it start and where is it now?
Good question. So, where did it start? It started not on FPL, as I'm sure you can imagine. So, my introduction to FPL was like via football analytics. So I got way into football analytics long before I got into FPL. And what you're trying to do there is you're basically trying to look at objective measures of what's happening on the pitch to make better predictions about what's going to happen in the future. So obviously incredibly useful if you're in a recruitment department trying to sign people. It's very useful for FPL. It's very useful if you want to say try and like outperform the bookies, although not really anymore because all the money's got the models anyway. So that's all you're really doing is you're just taking an objective look at the data that measures of what happens on the pitch and using it to make predictions about what's going to happen in the future. And so FPL Review is a very good model, the best in the business of that for FPL purposes. So it's why I find it quite funny when people are like, I'm very anti-analytics. I'm like, you're anti-looking at the data in an objective way. I'm like, are you like anti-physics as well? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, I know we can be arseholes. I get that. You can be anti-analytics, like people on Twitter. That's fair enough. But like, being anti-analytics as a concept just blows my mind.
Do you think it's that when they say the anti-analytics, do you think it's more that they would class it certainly as it's almost anti-football, in that you're not that interested in football or not watch football or those type of things?
Yeah, but that is it's really ironic though, because if you look at like what's happening in real football is using analytics more and more and more. Like especially over the last like 8 years, like I probably would have backed like probably like half of analytics FPL to be better than most recruitment departments in the Premier League about 10 years ago, just off like pretty basic shit, because they made just some like horrendous, very obvious mistakes. And that's the reason that it's gained so much popularity within clubs. But when you look at like the best recruitment department in the Premier League is Liverpool, right? Everyone agrees. Like they very rarely miss, and they have remodeled the whole club using data really at the centre of it. And Klopp has used data to change his tactical philosophy as well. I think it's been one of his greatest strengths as manager. But it can't be anti-football when you look at what they when you look at what you need to sign a player. You need the data there. You need the like video and scouting as well of what the context for that data. You need the like sleuthing on their personality to make sure they're not just gonna like rip up the dressing room. And you also need the coach's approval. And if you've got any of those four things missing, you're probably going to fuck up in some way. But it's just like it's what football is doing. Like the people who are running the football clubs.
For football and things like FPL, for example, what about the analytics stuff? A lot of it was American sports, wasn't it? Baseball, for example, and you play literally just lots of games. is I've just come back from America and just I couldn't believe, like, basketball, it's like every night you're playing. They play so you've got games in basketball like that. There's hundreds and hundreds of shots per game and so forth. What about in football where there's not as many? Does that mean that the old variance game and all that stuff, is it?
Yeah, it makes it a lot harder to analyse. I think that's probably why it's quite a bit later to come to it than quite a lot of other sports. So yeah, like you say, either you've got something like basketball where you've got like very clearly defined like discrete possessions. So you have like basically like one team goes, the other team goes, one team goes, the other team goes, and it's basically like how many of them can you convert into points. And then in baseball, you've got like extremely like discrete, like it's just a ball at a time. It's not a continuous game, so it makes it a lot harder to analyze. So kind of like kicked off with like shots. Even before like XG was kicking around, it was like, oh, hang on a minute, if we just look at shots, that's a better predictor than goals. But it's quite shoddy, and it's quite useless for actual football purposes. So the kind of paradigm within football analytics has shifted to possession value models. So it's really trying to understand, like, instead of the shot being the unit that you're analyzing, it's a possession. So it's like, are you progressing the ball into more dangerous areas? What actually is a more dangerous area, and how much more dangerous is it? And like all of the context around that, which I think is really interesting, and gives you like a lot like wider view on what's happening in the game than you kind of typically look at an FPL. But it definitely is true that you do need context around the data always. It's why like the kind of eye test against versus analytic stuff, like it's never really been in like a huge dichotomy to me. But I think people use the eye test for the wrong thing. So I think that they're not looking for the specific things which sit outside the data. So in my opinion, what you've got is you've got a set of data, and you know that it's going to pick up like a lot of things that are happening on the pitch. But there's also some situations. Let's say cross comes in, Harry Kane like almost gets a toe on it, and if he would have done it, it would have been a huge chance. And if he doesn't, it's not a shot, so it's no XG. So you're going to have some noise in XG or something like that, and that's something you can pick up by watching the game. Likewise, you could watch the game and you could be like, oh, Chelsea have like made a tactical tweak, and suddenly they're really trying to get the left winger free a lot more, whereas before they were just trying to play down the middle. So you go, okay, well that's going to take a little while to feed through into the data because, like you say, you need the sample size to be more sure. So those are the kind of things that you can pick up, but you just see some absolute bollocks of like, oh yeah, well he's like sprinting with a 1 centimeter like longer stride length, so he's looking hungry, so he's going to start finishing well. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. So I think the eye test is really useful, but I think a lot of the way that people use it is just harming them more than helping them.
So it's understanding that so in your mind with it, you've got the data is the data that's there, but the stuff that doesn't feed in. So like an offside goal, a VAR, something's just been slightly overruled, then it's like, well, that's straight off.
Won't register the shot, right? Because in order to have an XG value, you need to have a shot. Yeah,
exactly. So as you say, it's taking over. Somebody's getting into analytics. There's somebody's listening to this, is that we do have more people start to listen to our pods at the start of the season. Where do you start?
I mean, I would start by basically trying to understand which things are repeatable and which things tend not to repeat. So I think that tends to be the way you'll get yourselves in troubles, because all you're trying to do with FPL is you're trying to work out like what's predictive of the future. Even if you never look at data, you're still trying to do the same thing. You're trying to go, okay, what about this is predictive, and what about this isn't? Because you watch a game and you can see a million things. And the same with data. So you go like, okay, well, XG is basically your number one like stat if you're going to have to pick one. And the reason that it's such a useful metric is because it captures both your shot volume and your chance quality, and it tends to repeat better than basically anything else, even better than expected assist, predicting assists. So goals are easier to predict than assists is another thing I just keep in mind. So if you're looking at someone's like XGI data, which is expected goals and expected assists, if they've got like high expected goals and low expected assists, you'll probably be more confident that's going to repeat than if it's flipped the other way around. But all of that, I mean, if that's kind of only if you're really interested in it. If you just want the best numbers, just go on FPLV.com and just don't fucking worry about it. Like, the modeling's been done for you. I mean, it's only if you find it kind of interesting that you should go digging.
So then why shouldn't you? I was going to say, why
those
shouldn't you
that-
just go on FPL review and just do that then?
I mean, yeah, just do it. I mean, I pretty much just use FPL review for the points predictions because the modelling is better than the model I can build. So what's the point?
So then, look, then.
why reinvent the wheel? I mean, what's the point? There's a perfectly good wheel. Like, it's good. It goes round. It spins. Happy days.
So is it bravado? So like, if someone said, "Look, Simon, if you didn't have FPL review, you'd be."
Oh well, no, then I'd just use
Rubbish.
my own model. But I don't use my own model because it's crap in comparison. I mean, it's fine. It's not bad, but it's not as good. So why would I use the second best one if I can use the best one? Yeah.
Yeah, fair. And then, so models in general. So a model is something that will predict points based on the
Yeah,
data.
basically.
Yeah. You can give a better description or definition.
Well,
if there
yeah,
is
in
one,
FPL context,
what
then,
we're seeing there.
I'd also say conditional on some input of how many minutes you think they're going to play, and that is really the game. When you're really into analytics, that's what the game reduces to: is work out who's going to play.
And if we're being the stick prodding here and stuff and saying then that like you don't then like have to make a decision, so you just go on. I talked about, we had Ivan on, I talked about the fact that I'd think about a transfer, I'd go onto FPL review, I'd click my suggested transfer, it's the same transfer, and I'm like, yeah, that's nice, that's exactly what I wanted it to tell me, and it feels comforting. So that's almost, I'm using it in a reverse engineered almost type way of doing it. But then you've got the other ones of which you kind of are like, well, that says that, so I'm just gonna do that. And is there any kind of like, I'm just going to the decision piece there? Is it anything where I can go, hold on, it was the right decision, but the variance got me? Those type of, because they're the things that.
Yeah, so I think you've got
say, isn't it?
a few things that you've got to try and work out. You've got to work out the minute. I keep coming back to the minutes because it's just so important. The minutes, like if someone's like 93% like to start versus like 85, that makes a huge difference to actually whether they're going to be like the best option or just kind of like you're probably your third best option or something, and therefore you're not going to buy them. And so really understanding the minutes is a huge part of where you're trying to analyze it. The second thing is you don't get a free hit every week, right? You have to work out. So
No.
you get one transfer. So you're trying to work out your path through the points, and the planning tools in FPL review, as good as they are, they're not solvers, right? They'll tell you at each point what will bring you the most points over like the next 8 weeks or however many you put in your horizon, with some like decay, but that's not the same as the optimal path, which is quite different. And then the third thing is you've got uncertainty in each of your predictions. So you'll get like all you get is a number back, but really what you've got a distribution of predictions underlying that, and the actual true prediction is going to be somewhere on that distribution. And so you're not just trying to predict, you're not trying to maximize the points based on this week's predictions. You're also thinking about, okay, well, what's the EV likely to be next week? Like how wide is that distribution, and what are the features which determine what that distribution looks like? So that's really, I think, where the skill lies. And people going like, you don't have to make a decision. You just got to think about it a little bit more deeply than clicking a button and saying, let's do this. And if you don't think about it that more deeply, then you won't have a decision to make because you're not thinking about it.
So then you mentioned
quite
solvers there. So it makes me want to go to talk about FPL Optimize and Setup in particular, because he's using solvers to aid his decision making, and he's getting scenarios that give him options, which I guess will tap into. Well, we'll give him the choice of how much variance he wants to tap into for a certain amount of weeks. So does that sort of development change things where people are using solvers now rather than just looking into making decisions based on and something just to add to that as well, is something that I said to Ivan last week, and he said, he could hear the analytics crowd just like, just not, they were creasing or something like that. He was saying, was the amount of subjectivity that you put into a model, because, as you say, minutes is one thing that you have to determine somehow, and how do you determine what has a higher weighting in terms of importance, because you're using lots and lots of different data sets to come up with this prediction, right? So
Yeah, I think he said he doesn't use FPL review, didn't he?
He did say that. Then I don't think he fully meant that. I think he was just trying to
it's
defend
fine.
himself.
So I didn't build it. I can't take the credit. Jeez. Well, I think there's a few ways to like kind of break this down, right? So yeah, a lot of us are using solvers now. So I'm gonna
just explain what solver is compared to the model.
So a solver in this instance is trying to find you, given some kind of like input data, what the optimal path is. Where it gets interesting is solvers with noise. So that's when I was talking about each prediction having like uncertainty around it. So each prediction is actually a distribution, and if you can like apply essentially noise and run like 100 different scenarios of what the model will look like in the future, you actually just get not back one option. You don't get the answer. You get back around like 10 options. So you go, okay, well, actually, this is the best transfer about 20 out of 100 times, and this one's the best transfer about 15 out of 100 times. And actually, go when it's close, there's a lot more like, well, you can just go off vibes, and it's model approved, really. So I'm going to get my charger as I go. So there's that aspect, and then I've forgotten the other part of the question. To be honest, I've completely fucking thrown me. My laptop's running out of battery, so I'm trying to get a charger at the same time as answer it. We'll be good, mate. We'll be good.
We've done well here.
Luckily, we've got to be absolutely blessed. This is not a live stream, boys. Well, this is what the Uncertainty podcast looked like behind the scenes, by the way. It's absolute chaos. Now you know why we edit. Otherwise, it'd be like this.
Adam just walked off after asking a question. We didn't know what the question was. Simon had to go and get a charger.
Amazing. I thought you were mid-flow, and I just literally had to make sure my daughter was asleep because my wife's still out at a spa. But
before we go, there were two parts to the question. One was about solver.
Yeah, the amount of subjectivity that goes into any particular model.
Oh yeah. Well, the subjectivity in building a model, you've got a bit of like
poetic license, or
no? I mean, you kind of like you do choose like which features you choose to include. So like, okay, you can build a model which like you use odds data or you don't, but that's a bit less subjective because you can see, okay, well, if I add odds data into this and then I run it to give it the proper weighting based on like how much weight it will have, how much does it actually improve my predictions? Like that's the kind of thing you can check against past data. So like the building the model stuff, like less really fussed about that. Like the using the model stuff, and you just have to really understand like what comes out of the model. It's giving you a prediction conditional on a minutes input. It's not giving you a prediction of the minutes input really to the same level that a human can do. Like it's one of the things that humans can still do better than computers. And a lot of the X-minute inputs, like kind of like improvements that you've seen on FPL View, is basically because they just do a load of fucking manual work. Like that's why it's got better. It's not got better because computers have got better at it. Tried to do stuff with like hive mind and stuff, and then essentially just like moved away from that because it was just getting better predictions by like having like manual checks on it.
And is that stuff like, because one of the things I noticed last season, obviously, like is as it gets close to the deadline, those predictions might change because they rerun
the minutes. They're also picking up new data as well because odds feature reasonably heavily. So it's one of the ways also where people are like, oh well, if something's like changed, it won't get picked up by a model. It's like it won't get picked up by XG data, but it probably will get picked up by a model because it'll probably get picked up by odds markets.
So therefore, is it likely that more in the analytics crowds, they would be more likely to leave transfers late based on that information?
Yeah. Also, because what's the point going early, really? Like, it's team value.
But
Because you can quantify this stuff, right? So, like, a million of your team value is like in a normal season, like roughly about like 0.4 to 0.5 points per game week. When the pricing's soft, like it was last year and is this year, it's a bit less. I think Trout had it about 0.3 for most of last year. So if you're catching a 0.1, you're catching 0.03 points per game week. So you're catching about like 1 and a bit points really early on, and absolutely fuck all towards the end. And it's just like the information you're going to get, even just for just like injuries and team news and stuff. Like even if you just like never use the model, it just doesn't make sense to me. Just doesn't make sense to me to not. I mean, I used to make transfers early, but it's only because I was just being an impatient fuck, not because I was getting it right.
Yeah. But it does test you more, I think, at the start of the season, isn't it? Because everyone's on either 0 or 0.5 in the values. And then the second someone goes up, it's like, oh, I've got to do something else here. So I think getting priced out of stuff when you've not got that like 0.2, 0.3, whatever it is in the bank that enables you to have that little bit of patience, if there's ever a time.
I think it's only if you've got one option that's way ahead of the next one and you'd be 0.1 short, then yeah, fine. But I mean, it's pretty rare that happens.
So rules, use it late. That's just good. I mean, that just suits in general.
And just think about minutes. It's really where like nearly all of your brain space should be going. Like, and one of the like good things about analytics is you don't have to really like, you're not thinking about like, oh well, if they're on the pitch, like how much they're going to score, like, oh, he's looking dangerous, oh, he's like tied his shoelaces differently, oh, he's cut his hair so he'll be more streamlined. And...
Whoa! Don't knock expected haircut.
Yeah.
Expected haircut is. Let's just. Can we clear up? Are haircuts built into the model?
I think I wouldn't trust the data if it was, given some of the like faces that you see on FPL reviews, and the representations are amusing at best. It's one of my favorite things.
What about that sort of stuff though? Then, so I will find myself before a deadline and around certain transfers where it is people that are deemed a minute's risk, doing the things of, I'm going to look at a few journalists and see what their predicted 11 is. I'm going to go and see what the press conference says. I'm going to go and look on a fans forum and see what sort of things people are predicting, those type of things. Do I need to, or is just the model?
That's why it's doing that stuff. That to me, in my opinion, is like where all the skill is.
So how far?
There you go. Okay, I'm not wasting all of my time.
So how far in advance? Because I mean, no, review will give you expected minutes based on the view that you want. So whether you're looking 5 game weeks in advance, whether you're looking only 2 game weeks because you're dead ending or whatever. When you're looking at minutes in particular, and you're looking, how far in advance are you looking to adjust those minutes? Because would you put it in at, say, 85 or 86, or are you looking at kind of a longer term view of how many minutes they're going to get over a period of time?
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy. So just for the kind of like listeners / watchers' sake, the reason those minutes will be different on review is because like review essentially decays the minutes. So for the chance you get injured or suspended, obviously you can be less sure that they're going to be nailed in the future. So that's why you'll kind of see like 88, 86, 84 and going down like on a week by week basis. And so if you take the average over 2 weeks, it'll be different to 8. I tend to be looking out for anything which is like just looks like a bit off in general, and then otherwise looking like pretty short term.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So how does it translate between in terms of, so we're all looking at this season and we're looking at Haaland, right? So we're looking at Haaland, we're trying to pick up a value promoted player. These data points are taken from a different league against different players, different environment, different crowd sizes, different venues. different countries. How relevant is that data? And obviously there is relevance because it basically maps the quality of the player themselves. But how relevant or what? Yeah, how relevant is that data really to how they're going to perform in the Premier League? Would you say?
I'd say very relevant. I think the thing that's different if you've got a player coming to league and a player that has like already played in the Premier League, even moving teams in the Premier League, you get a similar effect. Is you're going to have more uncertainty. So you can kind of like work out Premier League stronger than the Bundesliga, like roughly how much the players like produce less in the Premier League than in the Bundesliga based on the players that have moved in the past. You can kind of get a percentage and adjust it. So you can still like use the data. The thing you have is a lot more uncertainty because obviously different players will adapt differently, and some will suit their style more, some won't. So you're going to have some players which like don't get worse, like Salah when he came in from Serie A, just absolutely smashed it. And you get some who come in and they just absolutely flop, like Sebastian Haller. But it's not so much that your like central estimate is wrong. It's just that you've got kind of big error bars at the start. I think with Haaland, it's probably one where because he's got so many European minutes in Champions League and Europa League matches for kind of Dortmund and Salzburg, where he's just absolutely ripped it apart. That I'd be like, yeah, it's absolutely fine.
Yeah, fair enough.
He's been destroying top teams for ages, so I don't think he'll have a real issue in that instance.
I think it ruins all of us on that one. There's a lot of stuff we've looked at it and said, "Oh, no new players to the league do very well," and all that stuff, and opening things. But how'd you go without him? How'd you go without him?
Well, you don't. He's the best striker in the world.
It's impossible.
Why would you go without him? He's the best striker in the world. It's not even close, really.
In the best team.
Maybe you can argue like Lewandowski or whatever, but yeah. I mean, he's so good. He's so good. He's so good.
And the players around him.
Yeah,
are pretty
he's
good.
an absolute machine at progressing the ball.
Yeah. So Haaland's in.
I think that's why. Is he 60-something% owned?
Yeah.
Everyone's worked it out. It's not really. It's not a hard one, is it?
It's not analytics. You can't steal. Is it nice that we won't have one that will be the old grass versus spreadsheets? It'll just be like
it's the same as Salah, right? Well, everyone except Andy Martin.
Yeah.
And we can call it variance, but I would love to see him not score in the first 3 games and watch everybody lose their shit. That would be hilarious. Yeah, it would. It would be funny.
Although you get so many tweets of like new player to the league, blah 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 blah.
Absolutely, would happen.
Yeah.
What about then? So you feel like more when they're in the same league. So if we take a couple of people that have moved, that people are considering, so like Jesus. So going from City to Arsenal, which on a team strengths piece is not creating the chances that City would have. How do you see that?
Jesus is an interesting one. I think in general, I think the kind of effects are overstated from like moving to from a weaker to a stronger team. Just because typically, if you go to a better team, like you're moving to a better attack, which like overall produces more, but you're typically a smaller proportion of it as a result. So if you're Rafinha was basically Leeds attack last year. If he goes to Chelsea, which it doesn't look like he's going to do, he looks like he's going to go to Sparta. Well, then he'd just be like a piece in a better attack, and numbers wise, he'd probably be about the same. City, however, because they're just absolute machines, they're such an outlier attack. Then I think you probably do have more uncertainty than usual in that regard. I also think there's a bit of uncertainty as to where he'll play for Arsenal. So, like, will he play as a striker, or will he play like an Aubameyang type role where Arteta tried to get him off the left? Obviously, played on the right for City last year. So that's a big question mark. So that one I think is a bit interesting. I think 8 million is actually quite an interesting price for him. I think he's 8 million, right? I think he'll do well though. I think he's a very underrated player, and I think his finishing gets a lot of shit because people don't look at his European numbers where he's had positive finishing, and when you net it all together, he's just like a little bit below his XG, not much.
Which is fine because that's where a number of players are anyway, really.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like
what you're
it's
saying
like
is basically
63 goals from like 67 XG, so it's basically like within the bounds of like probably an average finisher, just some noise.
Is this part of the selection thing though? So because we're just choosing his Premier League games, then
yeah,
doesn't count.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like why not just ignore all the shots he missed instead? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make sense. I'll give you that one. Let's so we talked about solvers and probably then. So I think one of the big moments of last season was the game week 26, wasn't it? Was it 26?
Oh yeah.
With the hits on it, and suddenly it went from people that would suggest, because I think the thing with people that did use review for a long time was review would rarely. It felt like review would rarely ever suggest a hit. It would be like, just do that one. And I think sometimes that almost created a reticence for some people, because you're like, yeah, but I want to do this one. It looks more fun, and I just do this, and they're like, just do that, mate. And you're like, oh god. But then it got rockstar, didn't it? It suddenly was like game week 26. Suddenly, no, we're just going to play like -12s, -16s, and I'm going to do this, and propaganda come out flying, and suddenly it was like, oh, everybody was listening.
But that wasn't a review one though.
So no, that was the solver. That was Sertou's one, wasn't it? Was so, but that suddenly I think gained a lot of interest in the analytics world. In that sense of, hello, we should listen to this, and hits through the solver seemed more prevalent. What do you think this season without the doubles and all those type of things? Do you see it changing?
I think hits are massively overrated by the FPL community in single game weeks, and massively underrated by them in double game weeks, which is basically what the solver will tell you. So the solver will rarely recommend you a hit in a normal single game week. It was... I think I hadn't taken a hit all year, and I took a -16 in game week 26 as my first hits of the season.
I can see we only do this audio, but I can see the smile on your face. It was like that loot. Did it feel like that?
Yeah, it's
like
good fun, but it was such a it's such a unique kind of moment in FPL, because you had so much new information in that game week, so you couldn't have like prepped your team up to that point. You didn't know what the fixtures was, and then you had this like huge like different like numbers of like fixtures for different teams just like popping immediately. Like even when it got to like down to like game week 30 and stuff, like so you had like teams with like 3 or 4 more fixtures, and if you didn't own them, it was like, well, this is the time to get them. Like they're going to be some of the best assets over the next few weeks, and you may as well get them in this game week where they've got a double, because otherwise, when you're delaying the transfer, like you're just going to either pay a hit down the line and have missed a double game week, or you're just not going to get them. So the kind of like the logic checked out. Obviously, it took like a computer to be so like absolutely batshit drunk crazy that humans just wouldn't think about it. For you to go, oh yeah, that does make a lot of sense. Because otherwise you look at like -16, like fucking casual morons analytics. What are they playing at? Like none of us are really thinking about it. And then like I think I was considering like maybe a -8, and then I was like, hey, Setup, do you want to run my team for it? I was like, yeah, the solve was drunk, and I thought about it. I was like, actually, it's onto something here. So yeah, it's a pretty fun game. But yeah, I mean, if I wouldn't be thinking many people will be taking many hits based on solvers until double game weeks roll around.
I'm not gonna lie, mate. I really hoped it was a prank. I so hoped it was a massive prank, and then it was going to roll around, and nobody had done any hits, and everyone.
Did you actually look back? Did you actually have a look back and see how much benefit you gained from those, or was that just looking at the outcome, which you're not really fussed about?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too fussed about it. I'm trying to remember. I think it paid back in week 1. I think it got. I mean, it went better than expected because I think Saka went off and like a couple of others and stuff like that. But I think it was quite weird to have the minus 16 like payback immediately, and then after that, it's really hard to kind of compute what the actual impact is because obviously you make different transfers based on where your squad is and stuff.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I mean, I think it almost feels like the Salah triple captain, which you couldn't have got to if you hadn't have taken the hits because others were wild carding type thing, and you wouldn't have been able to play that chip. It felt like it masked every hit that you took, and just everything else was a benefit after that. In some ways,
I feel like minus 16 wasn't probably necessary to get Salah. I probably could have got there, especially I had 2 free transfers as well.
I'm just thinking, yeah, of course you did.
Yeah, of course you did. But it's fun though. It was fun. Okay, I feel like we've learned good stuff. What about just in FPL review? You've got your data and your massive data. What's the game there?
I think you just got your massive data and you got your free one. Oh, the free one's quite funny. So the free one is basically FPL review. He's made a model and then he's made it like deliberately worse in ways that like play into people's cognitive biases. It's quite a funny little like troll. I mean, he has to make it a bit worse, right? Obviously. Otherwise, what's the point in paying? But it's quite funny. He's just like turned up the weight on like goals a bit, and like turned up the weight on like just so it like plays into the biases of what people think. It's a good little troll. That I love it.
So basically, are you saying that the free model is?
Oh no, it's still a good model, right? Like if you don't want to like pay for a model, like it's still worth using, but it's just a bit worse than what you pay for, obviously.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. And would you rather finish number 1 on massive data or number 1 overall?
Oh, overall, because then I can quit the game and never play again. That's
what we need.
It's
That's
a
what
dream,
all of
right?
us need.
Like, you go number 1, you might drop and you get your life back.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're done. So I mean, that's the get out of jail free card. So happy days, yeah, done, easy. but the person who finishes number 1 massive data is almost certainly a better FPL player.
There we go. So I can basically dine out on my triple figure massive data rank for life now. You don't get a rank history, do you?
You got to screenshot it, but keep it yourself, yeah. Well, FPL Reviews posted like the season review things in like for the top whatever manages the data ranks. He's done it for like the last 3 years, so if the tweets are still there, you got it.
Cool.
On it. Leeds? Should we talk Leeds before we go? What do you think? So, headline for the casuals is best 2 players going or gone. How do you feel about it?
Pretty good, actually. Yeah, I think we've we're going to sign Luis Sinisterra from Feyenoord. The Dutch league data is a little bit sparse to do my own little data scouting, but reading the kind of people who've got access to the data looks pretty good. A lot of ball carrying, looks quite similar to Rafinha, very dribbly, decent output. So I think that's absolutely fine. Like to replace Sinisterra, I think with Tyler Adams is fine. Again, I don't think he's not exactly the same player as Phillips. He does a bit less defensive work, a bit better on the ball. Like roughly the same amount of ball progression, but like kind of giving the ball away a bit less to achieve it, and a bit better ball carrying. So I think it'll probably fit the system better. Mark Roca, I think it's a great signing. Played for Espanyol and then went to Bayern. Hasn't played there much just because he hasn't managed to get in the team. But I think that's not really a problem if someone can't get into the Bayern team for Leeds. He's looked really nice passer at Espanyol. I think those two should fit together nicely. Rasmus Christensen, probably the most derided FPL asset on Twitter, the 5 million Leeds defender. Yeah, looks really nice. I don't think he's actually probably as bad as everyone said. just in that he's absolutely massive, and Jesse Marsh loves set pieces. So
but the output's
yeah,
good as
I
well,
don't
isn't
think
it?
he'll be able to get
In terms
forward
of
as much as he did at Salzburg, because they're just the best team in the league by such a distance in that league. It's a bit of a piss take, really. But I think he'll probably
we're
get
not
a few
going there.
attacking returns from set pieces. And who else have we signed? Oh yeah, Brendan Aronson. Yeah, looks like a tidy little player. Only what, 21. Still got some time to progress. 25 million is maybe a little bit punchy, but yeah, looks a really nice player. I think yeah, we had a very thin squad, and we had a lot of injuries last year as well. I think we're probably, if we had an average amount of injuries and the same squad as last year, probably expect something like 14th rather than 17th. And then I think the squad will end up significantly stronger than it did last year. So yeah, I think we'll finish like mid-table somewhere, like maybe 12th, 11th, 13th, something around that. It would be a guess. I think Patrick Bamford is back. Patrick Bamford would have played last day of the season, but he got COVID. So he recovered from his foot injury. So yeah, he'll be back. He's what a boy!
Well, boy, and Rodrigo's as a midfielder now, being reclassified as that one. Do you think he's getting in the team, or do you think he's back to the bench time?
I don't think he should play. Well, I don't think he should play that much. I don't think he will play that much either. He was very good 2 years ago, but he's 31 now, and you could see the drop off last year. He's not at the races, and we're signing a lot. Fair few attacking players as well. Obviously, Aronson, Sinisterra. I think we'll sign another striker or a second striker. Obviously, the rumour is like Charles de Ketelaere, but I don't think he will come to us over Milan. So I think it'll probably be someone else. But I think there'll be a lot of competition in that spot. So I don't see Rodrigo getting that many minutes personally.
But you'll still see it all focused around Bamford, essentially. Everything will sort of pivot around him.
Yeah, well, I mean, it really depends on what Marsh does. So he's used like quite a few systems where he's been. He's used like the 4-2-2-2 a lot, 4-4-2 diamond. He used the 4-2-3-1 a bit for us at the end of last season. He used 3-4-3 at Leipzig briefly, but I think that has more to do with the players. I don't think we'll see a lot of that at Leeds. So I don't think it'll be kind of all around Bamford. But I think the thing around Bamford is, is that the reason he gets so many shots and racks up the XG is not really because everything revolves around him. It's because his movement is so good. It's now Patrick Bamford is a poor finisher. Jesus is not. If Patrick Bamford was an average finisher, he would be playing for a top 6 club, no question. But his movement is unbelievable, and his pressing is very good as well. Yeah, I love Paddy. He's a huge miss for us last year.
Huge miss. Well, I hope he's back. I hope he's well. 7.5 million. We need more strikers. And just on the last strikers, Gelhardt, do you think he's we'll see more minutes?
Oh yeah, more
or less.
More. He's a superstar.
Much more.
He's going to be an absolute superstar, and I hope it's at Leeds.
Fair enough.
Marvellous.
We'll leave it there. See how long it's going to take to edit and put this all together, so we actually have something reasonable to put out, I guess.
Yeah, it'll be good. I'll cut out the Baker falling off and me getting my charger, but otherwise I'll leave it, and yeah, I'll just ping that over to you, mate.
Sounds good. Well, yeah, Simon, thank you very much for coming on the pod. Really appreciate your honest views about how the game has started this season. It's been fun, man. So if you're not following Simon, follow him at analytic_FPL, or if you want more football content from Simon, you can follow at analytic_footy. See, there's an extra plug for you as well there, mate.
I love it, mate. I don't know how you managed to get me on probably my rantiest day of the year, but for some reason it just all had to come out.
Perfect. It's exactly what we wanted. Exactly what we needed. It's perfect. So, yeah, game's out. Get tinkering. Get having a look at different drafts, and then when it comes to it, just 3 hours before the deadline, go to FPL review, see what they say, and then just click that. Job done.
It's easy game, isn't it?
Easy game. Cool.
Easy game, mate.
Right,
Easy
let's sign off from here, man. And yeah, we've got late riser next week. Hopefully we'll have the audio all sorted out once I'm back home. It'll be all good. Cool.
Nice one, mate.
Catch you guys later.